When you are lost in the forest, stop, stand still. The bushes and the trees are not lost. This comes to us from a poem. Now, I do not remember the name of the poem, but if you wish to know, it is a simple Google search away. Just put in what I just said. But this poem has stuck with me and gave me chills the first time I ever heard it because it's profound. When we are, to me, what this poem means is, when you are lost in the forest of life, just stop and stand still. The bushes, the trees, the things around you are not lost. They are not foreign. They are happening as they are meant to be happening and as they were destined to happen. And just because you feel lost does not mean anything around you is lost. And if nothing around you is lost, then how are you lost where something else is not lost? And I think it's just a great reminder to remind ourselves. And I actually saw this or heard this poem in a video, and the person who was talking about it went went further and said, how do you know you're on the right path? And he said, you're on the right path when the path disappears, when you're walking it and then out of nowhere the path is gone and you no longer know what you're doing. You no longer know if you're doing the right thing. And I've made a video before talking about how self-doubt is actually a good sign. Self-doubt is a sign that you're on the right path. It's a sign that you're striving high enough, striving far enough, striving for as much as you should be striving for, not settling for less. So I think we just need to we need to stay optimistic in these times. And we need to realize that just because we feel lost doesn't mean we really are lost. And if you are lost right where you're meant to be, then you're really not lost. And just keep staying the course. Don't start giving in to temptations and pleasures and things that will veer you, that will not put you on the right course. Because sometimes it's hard to know if you're on the right course. It's hard to know if this step will advance you in the right direction. But oftentimes it's easy to tell that this step won't advance you in the right direction. If you have a hard time saying, is this really what I should be doing? And you can't distinctively say, this is what I should not be doing, then it probably is what you should be doing. But if you can say, this is definitely not what I should be doing, then obviously don't do it. And these points are easy enough and trite when I say them. But I mean, how often do we really do the things we know are not beneficial? How often do we do the things that we know are detrimental to the person that we're trying to become, to the goal that we are trying to achieve? So often we do this. And I think it's really when we're walking the right path that it seems like something tries to sabotage us. It seems like the uncertainty just becomes too much. The delayed gratification just feels too delayed, and you start giving in to trivial pleasures. You start giving into these things to make it feel like the fruits of your labor are coming through in some way. And then this is when you start losing the path. This is when you start stumbling, and this is when it can be hard to recover because the path still isn't showing itself to you, but now you are getting habits in the wrong areas. You are doing things that you know you should not be doing, and you are moving further and further away from a path that is already uncertain and already hard to walk. And I really just want to hammer home that point that when you're walking the path, and the path disappears, this can be taken as a good sign, and it should be taken as a good sign. But obviously, it's so hard in the moment when your perspective is so in the moment, in the present moment, when you have seen very little fruits for your labor, when all that you have done feels like it is for naught, when you start thinking about all the things you may be missing out on how one day you may look back and say, oh, why didn't I just take it easier? Why didn't I just go have fun that weekend? Why didn't I just go do that fun thing? Why didn't I just chill out more? Why didn't I just watch more TV? This, that, and the other. But these are trivial things we indulge in just because people around us are indulging in them. And we indulge in them. When I say we indulge in them, I mean we indulge in the idea of them because our delayed gratification is becoming too much. The path is becoming too uncertain. And this is when it's paramount to delay gratification and to stay the course, because then you will truly be lost. Then you will truly look back and say, oh, what was I thinking? Why? Why did I do that? What did I gain? What was the benefit to me for giving into these things? And I think you will fall. I think we have to fall to realize this. So also be grateful to your fallings, because then you can use it as a reminder and a guide not to fall again, because the path will disappear again on you. Maybe next time it does, you have a little bit more fruits for your labors. Maybe next time it does, it's not as hard to bear, but you still will be tempted. Or maybe it's even more harder to bear. But then you can really see, last time this happened, and I gave in to those pleasures and I gave in to those things that I knew were not beneficial to me. Look how far behind I fell. Look how look how much I set myself back. Or just how much time I wasted. You know, the I've, there's that bamboo tree that it grows for like 50 years till it becomes its it gets its reaches its full growth. And I think the first like 45 years it grows like a couple feet. 45 years it grows a couple feet. But then in the last 5 years it grows 50 feet. And that's because for the 45 years it wasn't just sitting waiting. It wasn't just doing nothing, just waiting for the day to grow. It was setting a good foundation. It was building strong roots the whole time, the whole 45 years. It was building strong, firm roots that would be able to bear a growth as exponential as 50 feet in a couple years, when its whole growth was, only a couple feet in 45 years. And you can just remind yourself that that's what you're doing. You're growing the roots that are firm and that are steady and sturdy, that you will not be easily taken down once you rise to the heights, because your roots are so firm. But if you instantly rise to the heights, if you instantly get all that you want, you're not stable. You don't, and you're not as grateful. And you don't understand that how easily you can lose it, how easily one decision, one habit can snowball into many of the decisions and many bad habits that are not fruitful, that will knock you down. But when you have strong roots, when you've fought against those, when you've fallen many times and gotten back up, you can see the pitfalls before they come. And that is very beneficial when you're at the heights. For when you're at the bottom and you fall, you're at the bottom already, so it's a short fall. But if you get lucky and you get rise to the heights and you fall, it's a long fall. And it's a fall you may never recover from, because you fell too high. You got too high with only on luck, without merit, and you fell only with unluck. Or no, because you fell because, well, it wasn't unlucky that you rose so fast, but I think you get the point. You fell because you did not have strong roots, because you did not realize what it meant to be that high and how to stay that high. And obviously, this is symbolic, metaphoric language, but the heights can be many different things for many different people. But the main point is that, well, the main point is just don't despair. Just don't despair. And this, as always, is a message more to myself than to you. But I like to think that other people can use the messages I so need. And this is one that I need for I have not seen much fruit from my labors. And at times it can be hard to keep walking that path, to keep sacrificing what seems like so much for so little, for something that may never pay off. But as I fall and as I give in to the temptations and the gratifications, I see how unworthy it is, and how much worthier it is to fall, to miss out, striving for great things, than it is to give in to these trivial things that benefit you in no way whatsoever and that only come to bring regret, especially when you know you could have all the other things you could have done in place of it. And it's really whatever it is for you. When I speak on it, it's the videos that I make, the writings that I do, and things of that nature. Because a lot goes into all of it, really. I mean, I have almost like 500 videos, including shorts on my channel, but probably like 250, maybe even more long form content that is the accumulation of of hours of reading these books that you see behind me, of writing, and I have like 10 journals down there that I've just written, elaborated, and contemplated on the ideas that I've talked about on this channel. And I don't often I don't often like to talk about the views or the subscribers or things of that nature. But at times it can be hard when the amount of work and the amount of things that I've done have only brought forth 250 subscribers. And you know if I get more than 100 views on a video, it's a very good video. And I just hope that I've helped at least one of you in something, because that does make it all worth it. But I like I said many times, I believe speaking through personal experience is the best way, because that's all I know. And at times it is hard for me to continue to walk the course that I feel best, that I feel like I should walk, with worries of how to make a living and things of that nature. And yeah, but I can tell you, giving into these pleasures and giving into this instant gratification and giving in to these trivial things is not worth it. And I know future me would be far, far more grateful to me, to pass me, if I just continued to do what I thought was best, continued to do what I thought would help the most people, and continued to just try and live a life true to myself. Even if I fall short, at least I can look back saying, "Well, at least I tried." And I urge you to do the same. For it's not the things you're not going to regret the things you did, but you're going to regret the things you didn't do, the opportunities you didn't take, the the things you never tried, the goals you never really suffered and sacrificed for. These are the things that we will come to regret. These are the things that we will say, what if? What if I just gave it my all? What if I just tried my hardest? What if I just made it through that one patch of uncertainty? What if I just took that leap when I knew I should have? And for me, I am doing that. And at times it's very hard. I will not lie. At times I am consumed by uncertainty and anxiety and worry, and can make for a hard existence at times. But the path worth walking is not easy. As Seneca says, the path to the heights is steep. How do you expect to get to the heights if you do not take the steep path? How do you expect to get to the peak walking downhill? A sign that your path is hard, a sign that your journey is demanding much of you, is a good sign. It is a good sign. Trust that. And just because you look around and you see other people not working as hard as you, other people taking the easy road, other people not with as much of a sense of urgency as you, other people not working as hard as you, and maybe even receiving more fruits, maybe receiving things you believe should be yours. Just have faith that everything's happening for a reason, and that, when you stop and look around in the forest, everything is familiar. Nothing is lost. Everything is right where it's meant to be, right where it's meant to be. I just said sorry. Right when it's meant to be. So, what makes you think that you are not right where you are meant to be when everything around you is? I often look around and I see things happen, and whether it's a bird fly by or a gust of wind, I like the natural phenomenon. The natural phenomenon brings it out of me more than um, natural phenomenon brings it out more, I think. But it's just hard to imagine. And maybe it's because it's in the past as I'm thinking about it in the present, but it's hard to imagine a time and space and time when that did not just happen exactly as it happened. That bird, it's hard to imagine that bird going by, a couple inches lower, or that gust of wind making the leaves blow in a different direction. It's hard to imagine. For me, I mean, you could be different, obviously, and this isn't. I think you should actually try it. But beside the point, if you do feel that way, how can you sit there and say it's hard to imagine that happening any other way? But I'm in the wrong place. I'm not meant to be here. This is wrong. This is not right. I should be there. I should be doing this. I should be there, that, and the other thing. And I should be, successful, and I should have fruits for all my labors, and I should be this, that, and the other. Just have faith that all is happening for a reason. You may not be where you want to be because you are not ready to be there. Oftentimes, I mean, it's clear to see, sometimes people get success too early in a career, too early in an endeavor, and they either blow it up because they don't have the discipline to continue, or that they don't, they just got lucky, one hit wonders. And maybe if it just took longer, they would have had more skills and more things to help them stay at the heights so that they did not fall. But this video was, as always, for me as much as for you. And I hope you just stay the course. And I hope you're trying to live a life true to yourself. And I hope you're taking risk. And I hope life is not easy. Because if life is easy, then you need to be working harder. And that's not to say that life's supposed to be this hard thing that's suffering and sacrifices all the time. But it is hard, maybe impossible, to become the best version of yourself, to do all that you are meant to do without sacrificing, without suffering. And that's why I think it's valuable that, the Stoics and, even, the Christian text talk about how we should not, you can't make your aims these earthly things. You can't make your aims these pleasures because it's not a good rule to live a life true to yourself, to live a life most beneficial to humanity. Because, more times than not, you'll have a decision that is between, say a pleasure and a virtue. And if all of your directions are aimed at most pleasure, you're not going to be able to act virtuous in the sight of a pleasure that could potentially be obtained. And that's just why we have to train, and why we have to prepare ourselves for these moments, and why we need to walk a hard path. So when we are called to do it time and time again, we're ready because we already willingly do it. So I'll leave you with just the idea that just remembering that, just because, or when you're in the forest of life and you feel lost, just remember the bushes, the trees, everything around you is not lost. So why do you think you are?